Sandy.
This is Sandy. He's our therapy dog. He's been going to the rehab now for 6 years. 6 years. And he really misses it. He really, really does. And Sandy's claim to fame is the fact that he's a tri-pawd. So he's an amputee, like some of the other people at the rehab center. And he hops along and he sees everybody. He sits in their laps, or he usually sits in their beds, and is quite happy to have a little visit. So maybe I'll just tip this up a bit. Over here, Sandy, to see if you can see that he has 3 legs instead of 4.
Yeah, that's better. We can see him now. If you go down just a bit.
How's that?
Perfect.
Okay, so Sandy, can you just see that in the back he kind of has this funny little hop? And that's how I call him Thumper sometimes, because he does very well with his 3 legs, and he teaches us at the rehab how to do it, and how to kind of adapt. Yes. And you can see his ears go up when he's figuring out that he's supposed to be doing something. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions about Sandy? He's been with Ottawa Therapy Dogs for about 6 years too, always at the rehab center. He doesn't understand where the voices are coming from. Hey, Pooch.
So can you tell us, what are some of Sandy's favorite summer activities?
Well, I have a big garden in the front, and he loves to go, it's just a flower garden. He goes and he sits among the flowers, and he does exactly this. He lays down, just his head and his shoulders are sticking out among the leaves, and he greets everybody that goes by. And he says hello. He kind of wanders over to the sidewalk, says hello, gets a pat, and then he goes back down into his spot again. So if we go to a lake, he will go up and down the shoreline, but he will not go into the water. He'll bark at the geese or the ducks, but he won't go in the water. Hey, Sandy. No, you won't. Yeah. He's expecting a treat because he's down. Okay, sit. Shake a paw. That a boy. Yeah. And if he shakes a paw, he expects a treat. We know that that doesn't happen at the rehab center. Oops. But sometimes it happens elsewhere. Sandy he's a Sheltie, so he's like a double coat of fur. So he's putting his nose inside his little treat jar here. He gets pretty hot in the summertime, so he finds shady spots and he's there. Yeah, because he has this long fur coat that you see, and then he's got this little woolly coat underneath. Hey, Sandy. Yeah. Hey, Pooch.
Donna, I have a question. So how did Sandy become a tri-pawd?
That's a good question. So it was right in the front of the house. And so what happened was Sandy, something spooked him, and he ran down the driveway and right onto the street, onto the path of a dump truck. And it was, he tried to kind of get back onto the sidewalk, didn't miss it. And so he had his paw run over. Yes, I know you had your paw run over, didn't you? Yes. And so when they lose the pads underneath their paws, when they lose those pads, that's what they walk on. So the vet said, we'll do an amputation, which sounded pretty drastic to me at the time. But you know what? In a month, he was doing everything he did before. Yep. Hey, Sandy, so he was running up the stairs in 3 weeks, chasing the squirrels in 4 weeks. And I do not think he remembers having had 4 legs. Yep, he just carries on. He's a pretty good ambassador for us, telling us how to adapt to changes in our lives. And as you can see, he's done very well on his own. He's very mobile. And he likes his tummy rubs.
How old is he?
He's 11 now, so he's getting to be a senior. Doesn't act like it though. Although I must admit, in these hot days, if we go for a long walk, he's a little bit slow by the time we get home.
Donna, can you, how long have you and Sandy been coming to the rehab center? Because I think a lot of people don't know the history of you and Sandy here.
Well, that's really true. So we were in the process of being kind of evaluated to be a therapy dog with Ottawa Therapy Dogs. And that's the time when he had his accident. Boy, okay, so you just stay there. You just stay there, yeah. And so we started coming to the rehab after his surgery and after he had recovered. So it's 6 years now, and he's pretty faithful. Thursday afternoons are his times. Yeah. So he started when he was 5. So he is now 11. So he's been there for quite a while. Chose to go to the rehab because he's an amputee and he had to learn how to do his own rehab so that he could walk again. Wow. So we chose to come to the rehab for that reason. And we would come at the end of your therapy sessions. So generally therapies are, 1 to 3. So we kind of came 3:30ish to 5 until supper time. So we were there every Thursday. He made the rounds of all the rooms, and anybody who wanted a little visit, he would sit in their lap, or he would sit in their beds, and you could get a scratch. Well, you know what he did though? Because he can't scratch himself on one side because he's missing a hind leg, he would back into people so they could scratch his rump or they could scratch his ear. And they would look and say, what is he doing? And they say, oh, he wants his rump scratched. And that was his signal that, thank you very much, I can't do this for myself. Would you do it for me, please? So that's that was his claim to fame there. But we came every Thursday afternoon. Of course, since COVID, we've not been there since March. And he's just kind of, this is what he does first thing in the morning. I don't know if you can see him there. And just kind of says, okay, time for my tummy rub. And he's got such a lot of fur and he loves it. Yes. But it's so funny to have 3 paws in the air, not 4. And you can see he's getting to be a senior. He has white around his nose and around his chin and around his eyes now. Didn't used to have that. He's Sandy, yeah. Good boy, stay. Yeah. He can't figure out quite what's happening here. I mean, he's saying, why are you having me stay here? What am I doing? Yeah. And of course, when he puts his collar on, he knows he's going to work. So he can't quite figure out why does he have his collar on when he's not going to work. So he's just a little bit confused. Eh, Sandy? Yeah. Yeah. And you notice he has one ear that doesn't always go with the other, right? I mean, it just, yeah. And so I met a fellow who showed Shelties once, and he was very upset. Sandy was just a pup, that his ears did not tip down the same, that one was just a little bit more of an angle than the other. And he wanted to glue his ears down at the right angle so we could show him. I said, no thanks, he's a pup. We're not going to be showing him. We're not going to be breeding him. And his ears are cute just the way they are. That's right. So, you know, the thing is, he gets his final brushing. We have a little kit that we go to the hospital with, so with some water, with his boots if it's winter time, because there's a lot of salt around the rehab in the winter, and some treats, a comb, something to wipe him down. So his little care package goes with us, and away we go in the car. So you're right, he's not used to having his bandana on at home. And he is always as well with his leash when we go. So he has a leash that is only used when we're at the hospital. Yeah, and he's willing to go. He says hello to Perry first thing, and he's all excited to see Perry. It takes me about 10 minutes to get down the hall to the volunteer room because he has to say hello to everybody on the way.
Yeah.
You'd never know that right now. He's looking pretty relaxed, isn't he?
And the staff love him just as much as the patients do.
Oh, and yes, he clearly has his favorites too. And he knows, he knows that, for example, when he goes to see, he needs to go to see the nurses first before he will go to see any patients. That's his routine. Yeah.
Oh,
but you're right. If you go on to Ottawa Therapy Dogs,
okay.
There's the whole thing about the organization, but there's also a whole thing about how to become a therapy dog. And it outlines it very clearly. We have some information sessions, some orientation sessions, and then after they're trained, they have an evaluation, which is pretty explicit to make sure that they're really well suited to becoming a therapy dog. So they test things out like, my favorite is they kind of simulate if you're in a hospital and you're waiting at an elevator and the door opens and a whole bunch of people come out, the dog has to stay really, really calm. So they simulate that kind of stuff in the testing. They bring them around things like IV pools and wheelchairs, make sure they're okay with loud noises, with lots of people, with people hugging them. So they really simulate what it would be like at a hospital and make sure that they are suitable for that. And then if they pass that evaluation, then you get assigned to a facility and you get mentored a little bit before you're off on your own. So it's quite a good process. It's quite a comprehensive process, actually. Yeah. But generally, they won't do the evaluation until they're 2. So you can certainly do the training before they're 2, but most of them, if they're still just too puppyish, and you want them to be able to just kind of hang out with people, right? So generally, it's by the age of 2. And actually, some of them are quite a bit older when they get to have their evaluation done. And he's going to go to sleep again. My gracious. Of course, the floor is cool, so he kind of likes that too.
Yeah, I like that. All right, so we're actually at 4:30. So, and I think Sandy's checked out.
Hey, you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right.
He says, oh, well, okay, I'll be back next week.
Bye, Sandy. We miss you.
Sit.